trying to pull this out, but I can't. I can't get it out. You guys, I read Harry Potter. Finally! I read it. So before I dive into my thoughts about the books and the series as a whole, I thought I would answer the 5 most common questions that I've gotten on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter since I've started reading this series, which are, what's your Hogwarts house? What's my Patronus? What wand did I get? What was my favorite book? And what was my favorite character? So let's start with my Hogwarts house. I was pretty sure that I was gonna get Slytherin, like 99.9% positive that I was gonna get Slytherin. And then I took the test, and I got Gryffindor! Anyway, now every person I meet, I'm like, oh, so what's your Hogwarts house? Because I feel like it's so, like, telling of who that person is. I cannot keep wearing this Gryffindor scarf because it is far too warm in here, and I'm going to sweat up a storm. So, for the Patronus, Patrona, what's the, like, the plural of Patronus? Anyway, so I took the Patronus quiz, and my Patronus is a dun stallion. I feel like that's super fancy. A big old pony just swooping on in and getting all the Dementors away, so. But yeah, my Patronus is the dun stallion. Oh my god, which totally works because I wear a unicorn mask for all of these videos. Yes, it works! Next question is, what is my wand? So the wand that I got is a quite bendy 12-inch ash wood with a unicorn hair core. I'm trying to pull this out, but I can't. Okay, so my favorite book was Prisoner of Azkaban. This is the cover of the edition that I read. My favorite part of this book, which is why I think this book will always be my favorite. First of all, Sirius Black, like, love him. And second of all is the Marauders map. It really reminds me of my dad, and he totally would have been a mischief maker and part of that whole crew, and I don't know why, I really, that one, like, really spoke to me. So that's why The Prisoner of Azkaban will always be my favorite Harry Potter book. And finally, my favorite character of the book series, hands down, Ginny Weasley. Absolutely freaking love her. She is so full of the sass, and her comebacks are just, oh, they're so freaking perfect. Totally my favorite character. Not my favorite movie character, because the movie version of Ginny is not nearly as good as book Ginny. So you have to tell me in the comments below, your Hogwarts house, your Patronus, your wand, your favorite book, your favorite character. I want to know the answer to those 5 questions. Jump down in the comments. Tell me right now. Okay, let's talk about the first book. Ta-da! And I just realized now that I'm actually holding up Prisoner of Azkaban. So I was like, wait, that's the back of it. Okay, here's Sorcerer's Stone. That's the cover of the edition that I read. So let's just pretend that I was holding this book the whole time. This is how excited I am. I'm so excited that I don't even realize what books I'm holding up. I love the world in this, obviously. It's the world that we are all so drawn to. It's so intricate and detailed, and how did she come up with so much of this stuff, and like Diagon Alley, and if you put the words together, it's diagonally, and it's like, oh my god, there's just so many like little nuggets like that, you know, in this book, and that is what I love the most about this one. Okay, book 2. I actually have the right copy this time. So, Chamber of Secrets, here's what this cover looks like, here's what the back looks like. Chamber of Secrets, everyone says, is their least favorite book, and rightfully so. It's pretty boring. I mean, it's still, like, great, wonderful, magical, blah, all that stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, compared to the other books, it's kind of just like what happens in the first book, except with a different ending, slightly. So this book was my least favorite, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of, like, read the fastest through this one, just because, first of all, everybody told me that this book wasn't their favorite, so I feel like I was kind of, like, already set up for it to not be my favorite, but either way, it wasn't necessarily my favorite, but still wonderful. Book 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, my very favorite one. So after reading this book, I made a mistake in naming my dog Olive. I should have named her Sirius Black because she's a black dog and she is my guardian, I feel like. She is my mentor. So I really wish I had named my dog Sirius Black, but anyway, love this whole book. I love that Professor Lupin is his Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher and actually teaches him stuff, and then there's the whole like boggart thing, which is so cool and so interesting. So it appears differently for every single person, and I was trying to think like what that would be for me, and it's probably a shark. I'm like really not cool with sharks. I find them very scary, but like the ocean in general is really scary, so I don't know if the boggart would just like appear for me as like the entire ocean, and then I'd be like immediately underwater in the entire ocean, or it would just be like a floating ocean with like a shark, or would it just be like a shark, like a Katy Perry shark just being like, what's up? I don't really know how the boggart would appear for me, but that's like some questions that I have for J.K. Rowling. So what would the boggart appear for you? Tell me in the comments below. But anyway, this whole book, it definitely starts where the story starts getting a lot darker, and you can start to see what the larger story is here. And because of the first two books, it's really about Harry and he's going to school and he's making friends and figuring out blah 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 and all that stuff. But this is the one where you start seeing like, oh, there's like life outside of Hogwarts. Like there's stuff going on in this wizarding world. I don't even know why I'm trying to explain the plot to you guys because you guys have read this, but I do love this story so much, and I really want that Marauders map. Mischief managed. I don't know. I just love everything about this one. All right, now let's talk about the Goblet of Fire. So this one is when things start getting pretty hefty here. Here's what the front looks like. Here's what the back looks like. Triwizard Tournament was like very creative, but I sort of feel like I can see where a lot of like dystopian, YA dystopian stories kind of pulled some ideas from this book. This book also sort of cemented my love for the Weasley twins, Fred and George, particularly at the end because Harry uses his winnings from the Triwizard Tournament to give to Fred and George, who then go and start their own joke shop, and I love that, and I feel like I would have wanted to go into business with the Weasley twins because like I think they're geniuses. Again, I thought this one was super fun, so different from the third book, and so different from the others too, especially in like in its structure and in style. But definitely one of my favorite ones. Plus the movie was fun. You know, our Pats, seeing him as Cedric was cool. I mean, you know that like meme that you've probably seen where it's like the iceberg and you see the tip of it and it's like the movie, and then you see the rest of the iceberg in the water and it's like, this is what happens in the book. That is like so true, obviously for the rest of the movies, but definitely for this one because I feel like they cut out so many of the subplots and they changed so much of it. It was a good movie, but not my favorite. But I really liked this one. This one was fun. This one was like really, really fun. I think I read this one the fastest. And it's the least ruined book. That's probably why, because I read it so fast. So anyway, that's the fourth book. Yay. Number 5, Order of the Phoenix. Here's what the cover looks like. Ta-da. Here's what the back looks like. Oh look, it's Dumbledore's army. That was my favorite part about this book. Totally love Dumbledore's army. I love the room of requirements. That is so awesome. If I had a room of requirement, it would probably just like open up for me and just be full of puppies. I would have totally joined Dumbledore's army. Very Gryffindor of me. This one also had another tragic ending, even sadder than obviously Goblet of Fire, because Sirius is like one of my favorite characters. At the end. Until like the very last page, I was like, oh, Sirius is not dead. Like, he's just not. Because Luna, you know, she's like, oh, you can hear their voices when they're by the mirror, and I'm just like, oh yeah, he's totally coming back, right? Like, there's no way that they would bring on this awesome mentor for Harry who's never had a real, like, parent guardian figure in his life, and then immediately kill him off. There's no way J.K. Rowling's gonna do that. And then she does that, and I'm just like, but like, I was in some serious denial the whole time after Sirius died. I'm just like, there's no way. This one is also the one that I think got the most beat up. It actually doesn't look too bad. I just got like my edges are a little bit. Whenever I started reading these books, I would always like read it like this. I'd be like, oh, I can't crack open my spine, but by the end I was like, ah, okay. Because they're so big, and I just got so into it. The 6th book, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Here's the cover. Here's the back. Why? Why do all of the good wizards have to die? Why? I just feel like that sucks. And Snape. Okay, I mean, I know that Tumblr loves him, so I'm assuming that he, like, does something awesome at some point. But then I get to the end of this book, and Snape kills Dumbledore. And I'm just not okay. I am not okay with Snape, and I never will be. Obviously that changes. That whole ending just, it broke my heart. First of all, in this whole scene, when they go to the cave, and Dumbledore crosses that river of disgusting dead, reanimated corpses, and he drinks that nasty-looking Gatorade stuff that's in the bowl, and he starts seeing who knows what, and he's screaming, and he's crying, and I just have this image of an old man Dumbledore crumpled on the ground, drinking blue Gatorade and crying, and I'm just like, hasn't he been through enough? Oh my god. So then when they get back and he just gets killed immediately, it's sort of just like, why? So unfair. Alright, the last book, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Here is the cover. Interesting that they put Hermione in the center. So this book frustrated me. I would say the first half of this book was super annoying because half of the book it's Ron, Hermione, and Harry, and they're camping. And that's basically all that they're doing. Even then, I was just sort of like, ugh, really? This is like what the last book's gonna be? Them just like camping and being annoying and like yelling at each other? Ugh, boring. So, but when they get to Gringotts and they try to steal the cup, when they do, that is sort of like when like the story picks up for me. That's like when it's like, okay, now we're cooking with gas and we're starting to get this going. But leading up to that part, it was like, oh, so boring. But then I would say that the last half of the book definitely made up for the fact that the first half was quite dull and boring. Because the last half of the book was just perfect. It was so well written, it was magical, it was devastating, it was heartbreaking. It was like, oh, all of these pieces that she had talked about, they all sort of like came together, and there was this like crystallizing moment where you were just like, oh, that's why she wrote it that way, or oh, that's why that thing happened in the first couple of books, and it all sort of like comes together in a perfect way. And I will say this, that the part that really killed me, that really, I mean, I was just like weeping, like sobbing, when Harry has the resurrection stone and he's going through the forest. I think the chapter's called The Forest Again. And when he sees his parents and Sirius and Mad Eye, and he sees all these people that he loves and were part of his life. And when he's walking through that forest and all of these people that he loves are there with him, and they're saying things, I don't remember exactly what the words are, but we'll always be here with you. And you can tell I'm tearing up just thinking about it, because that was like real emotional stuff right there. There's just so many losses in the last book. The worst death in the whole series, hands down, was Hedwig. Why did you have to kill off Hedwig? I know that she said that it's like the loss of Harry's innocence, but I feel like it was really like the loss of my innocence too, because Hedwig, the burb, you can't kill the burbs. Oh my god, I love them. But that whole book with all of those losses it almost makes you appreciate those who survived. The way that ended was it was perfect. It was so good. So the thing that I find very difficult with now having finished Harry Potter is, how do you move on from a story like this? Because it isn't just 7 books. It's one amazing journey and adventure, and you really do feel like you're like part of this world too, part of your world. It really makes you feel like you're part of this story. And I get it now. I understand why people are obsessed with this. I understand why this series changes lives. I feel like you guys get it. You've read this series, so you understand too, like, how it just makes you feel. You just feel like, oh, I feel like I'm a different person after reading these books. So the whole series, like, ugh, I can't believe I waited this long, but it was so great. It was so awesome. And I really have no idea how I'm gonna like read anything after this, because what do you even read after this? That's pretty much how I feel about it. I just feel like, love. So, yay, thank you guys for finally forcing me to read this series. I'm sorry it took me so long, but I'm so glad I read it, because I feel like my life is so much better now that I've read Harry Potter. Yay.